Welcome to the Latam MedTech Leaders Podcast, conversations with leaders who have succeeded or plan to succeed in Latin America. Please subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, etc. Today, our guest is Mahesh Narayanan. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. He's a program director and venture partner at Newchip, an accelerator that since 2019 has helped founders raise over $300 million with over 70% of their graduates successfully raising capital. Mahesh is an entrepreneur in biotechnology with extensive experience in the healthcare and life sciences industries and has a strong focus in business development and business startup strategies. Mahesh provides business and scientific guidance in the development of therapeutics and medical devices. He received his master's in biotechnology from the University of Pennsylvania and his bachelor's degree in history and pre-medical sciences from Boston University. So Mahesh, I'm really pleased to having you here in the show today. I look forward to our conversation. How are you doing today?
Absolutely. Thank you, Julio, for the invitation, and thank you for that great introduction as well. Appreciate it.
Sure. I mean, you deserve it. You are the guy here. I mean, I'm so thrilled to having you here and to hearing about your activities in Latin America, finding innovation in the region, clinical research. I mean, you've done all in Latin America. So let's get started with your journey to the region. How is it that you guys started getting involved with Latin America?
Absolutely. So I actually started, again, as with most things in life, serendipitously. I had a good friend that I met at a conference who actually, at that point, was doing his graduate studies in University of Texas, A&M. So we met at a conference and we really hit it off. He was also a very young scientist looking to become an entrepreneur and had just started his own biotech company. So I started my first biotech company back in 2013. That was kind of more in the digital health space. Now I had a quick exit and then moved into the therapeutic side of it, kind of using similar technologies, but more applying those the digital aspects into a therapeutic development. That's the current company, PepVax. And so, our goal, between our combination there is that he had a particular technology that he needed help in delivering into patients. So he had a particular RNA technology. So back then, not a lot of people knew about RNA. Now everyone knows because of all the vaccines, how well RNA works. But he had a particular RNA therapeutic for pancreatic cancer. But he was really struggling to get it delivered into patients. Because RNA breaks down very quickly. And for a vaccine, it's good because, you get it, it expresses and it's done. But when it's being used as a therapeutic, when you're actually trying to treat a disease, RNA, it has to stay there for a long time. And you have to make a lot of it in order for it to work for a therapeutic. And he wasn't able to do that properly. And so he came to us because we had a lot of experience in actively delivering any types of DNA and RNA-based therapeutics. And so we started collaborating, quite early on to see if we can help him deliver his therapeutic into patients actively and do well. And that was my really first interaction with a Latin American company, because he was originally from Costa Rica. And so he ended up going back to Costa Rica, started his company there. And that's when our interaction with a Latin American company started to come about. I was like, oh, here's a great company. He started, he was in the United States, but then ended up going back. And the reason he went back was actually, because of the opportunities that he saw in Costa Rica that he wasn't able to see in the United States. And primarily, it comes down to how quickly he was able to recruit patients, how quickly he was able to use certain facilities that were readily available in Costa Rica, but no one was using them. So there was a lot of government aid that was available, but no one was aware of it or no one was using it. And so he kind of dug deep into the research and then said, okay, I have a lot of ways to get funding and a lot of ways to get my company going in Costa Rica. So he decided to go back to Costa Rica. And so we pretty much followed him there.
That's ironic, right? It's easier
exactly.
to develop a product in Costa Rica than in the United States.
Exactly. So while research is great here, there are a lot of regulatory pathways in Western Europe as well as in United States that make it quite hard to quickly develop therapeutics in certain
Yeah.
indications, especially in cancers, rare cancers, where
Okay.
it's late stage or it's there aren't that many people to test. It becomes very hard in America, but it's actually not
Yeah.
that hard to recruit those type of patients in Latin America, primarily
Hmm.
because they don't have too many other options here.
Great.
That
Yes.
is, that's
Agree.
what it pretty much comes down to access, right? And so
Yeah.
in the United States, you have so much access to some advanced therapeutics that most other world countries don't really have access to. And so in Latin America, that's quite prevalent as well. And so when they see that there's a experimental in a clinical trial that they're recruiting patients for, it's much easier to recruit them because they're like, oh, I don't have anything else, so might as well try this. And so that's that was an opportunity that he saw in Costa Rica. But the other aspect is, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize as well, you can actually conduct experiments in Costa Rica and Brazil and take those results to the United States FDA
Yes.
and actually
Mhm.
use it actually to at least show them that you have initial human data and it's safe, and then you can actually expedite your process with the FDA into
Exactly.
phase 2 and phase 3.
As
And
long as the data is captured following ICH GCP standards.
exactly. So and that's not offered in all countries, by the way. Just because you follow the FDA guidelines in another country doesn't necessarily mean that they will approve it. So the FDA has identified a few countries that they have
Yeah.
gone to the facilities. They've worked with their FDA equivalent. I believe in Brazil it's AVC,
And
and in
Visa.
Costa Rica. Visa,
Yeah.
sorry, and
Yeah.
in Costa Rica, there's I think
Yeah.
it's CRFTA,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
they have very similar hierarchies and they have similar regulations, and so the FDA has approved a couple of countries around the world where you
Yeah.
can conduct it there, and then you can actually bring the data back as long
Yeah.
as you follow those particular guidelines that you just
Yeah.
mentioned. And that's pretty much what he had planned, and that's what he's doing at this time. He was actually able to expedite his clinical trials, and through him we were able to expedite our clinical trials because our device and our drug delivery platform was also being used for that, and so we actually used that information to come back to the
Excellent.
FDA. So actually, we were
Yeah.
able to kill two birds in one stone. He got,
Totally. Yeah.
he got his approval for his drug, and we got
Yeah.
approval for our platform, all in the same clinical study. And I
Very
think
good.
that is one of the big opportunities that we can see in Latin America is being able to if you pick the right countries and you're able to pick the right facilities and certainly the right medical personnel to run clinical trials, either in therapeutics or devices, you actually have a really good chance of getting it approved in the United States just with that
Yes.
data. And so
Exactly.
that's actually how my journey started with Latin America. Is you brought me there, and then now I've been exploring it for the past couple of years. Like, where are the faster
Marvelous.
opportunities? The opportunities where I think we can take advantage of, not just in therapeutics but medical devices and other aspects that I feel are important to be able to bring that type of care to people.
Yes, Mahesh. Thank you for that answer. I mean, it was a fantastic answer, and you talk about so much stuff. We can have 5 different episodes with that answer. But
Absolutely.
a quick comment here is that a lot of our clients, we do a lot of clinical research in Colombia, and we can do clinical research all over Latin America. We just happen to believe that Colombia is perhaps one of the best countries for this type of work. So a lot of our clients and sponsors use that data, that clinical data, and they sit down with the FDA and with their investors, right?
Right.
I mean,
right.
that represents a huge milestone in the development of every technology, that first in human experience. Those 20 patients, 15, anywhere between 10 and 20 patients. And they sit down with the FDA and they can talk about their pilot or pivotal in the United States if it is a medical device. And of course with investors or also with the strategic acquirers. They can now talk to Medtronic, Boston Scientific, and say to them, listen, I already got human experience. Now I'm more attractive. Let's talk about evaluation here. Let's talk about an acquisition.
Exactly.
So,
And it's a great opportunity for early stage companies because, if you're able to get the funding, I mean, that's the other, I think the downside to some of the work is that, funding is not readily available. So the funding probably has to come from the United States or somewhere in Europe.
Oh, yes.
But but the work can definitely be done in that region and done really well to the same standards you might be able to do, if not sometimes better, than you might be able to do in the United States.
However, before we move on, I want to make a quick comment here. I've been faced with a few clients, sponsors who have told me, Julio, I'm getting all these financial or incentives, tax and financial incentives in Australia, in Poland.
Yes.
And I'm like, interesting. Let me do some research in Colombia. Let's see what financial incentives or tax incentives the government has for companies to do research or to do trials, any type of R&D work in Colombia. And I was amazed about, of what I found. About the amount of money that the government is offering, free government grants. It's just not many people know about it, and not many people take advantage of it because they don't know what to do with those grants. Because There isn't much innovation. There isn't much local innovation. So foreign companies can take a lot of advantage of these opportunities in Latin America, since all these governments, Mahesh, are looking at science, technology, and innovation as a way to diversify their economies and to create knowledge economies. They want to export knowledge, not export bananas and avocados and mangoes and coffee, right? Or oil. That's a thing of the past. Latin America is already past that. like countries like Chile, Colombia, Mexico, they're already thinking big. So yeah, that's an opportunity that very few companies are seeing in Latin America. There are a lot of grant opportunities in the region. It's just that you have to wait a little longer. You have to partner with a local company and apply for the grant. You cannot do it from the United States. You have to do an application locally in Spanish, but can be done. There's money. Just recently, I was just talking to a sponsor. We're doing a couple clinical trials for them. They're looking at another indication and stem cell work, regenerative medicine. And we were looking at a grant by the Colombian government of almost $300,000.
Yeah.
That's enough for a clinical trial. So
right. And that was actually a similar type of grant that my friend was pursuing in Costa Rica.
Excellent.
And he realized that there was almost for using $300,000, he actually got over $10 million of money that no one else had used. It was there, and the government was just holding on to it. And he's like, well, I want all the money. And they said, okay, here's all the money. No one wants it. And so, he got so lucky because 10 million goes so much further in Latin America than it does in the United States. Yeah. So, so he's actually, he has enough funding to finish his phase 1, his phase 2, his phase 3, get all the reasons, all the trials he needs, and still have more left to go do another product, So the amount of money goes much further in Latin America. And speaking of Mexico, and I have another company that I've been working with in Argentina as well.
Okay.
The medical device and equipment market in Mexico and Argentina are unbelievable. The amount of innovation that's coming out of Mexico and Argentina and even Colombia. When you're looking at like heart valves, when you're looking at MRI machines or ECG, they are finding new and better ways because they have to get it to patients faster, cheaper, more efficiently. And so I think I mentioned when we spoke before, there's a device company that was actually invested in that was looking at a sonic and light machine in order to kill bacteria, right? Because antibacterials are such a big market, but no one wants to work on it because the more you take antibiotics, the less they work. Because bacteria keeps they keep mutating, and so it becomes less effective. So none of the big companies want to work in antibiotics anymore because they don't make any money. Because the more they sell, the less money they make. And so it's like one of those paradoxes in pharmaceuticals. But this company, this company was started by a doctor in a hospital in Mexico, and he saw that there was so much rampant MRSA, this methicillin-resistant bacterium that no matter what you do, they don't die, and so they actually more patients. He lost more patients to MRSA than he did to why they came in for.
Yeah,
they could have
exactly.
come in, they could have come in for like a wound in their leg. They broke their arm and they died because of MRSA. It was like the worst situation for them. And he's like, this can't, I can't lose patients to something I can't see. Like this is, I can't treat this way.
Yeah.
And so he actually tried to, not just tried to, he actually created this medical device, which uses light and sound. He realized that if you use certain frequencies of light and sound, is able to kill the cell wall of the bacteria, and so the bacterium dies. So there's no antibiotics, there's no antibacterial agents. You just use light and sound, and the bacterium dies. And he did it because he had to, and now I think he saved the entire world by doing that, because this is so relevant to every country. No matter where you go in the world, MRSA exists. No matter where you go, bacterium exists. And so, and they will mutate. The more you take antibiotics, the more they mutate. And so by now being able to just kill the bad ones, and this is actually what he's working on specifically, because there's good bacteria. You don't want to kill the good bacteria as well, because the entire gut is made of good bacteria. But to be able to identify the bad bacteria and then kill it using specific frequencies, that's brilliant. And that came out of Mexico, and we helped fund them. And now they're looking to expand to the entire world. And so they're going after markets in the United States, in the Europe.
Sure.
That came out of Mexico, and those are the opportunities I feel. That the innovation is happening because it has to, not because we want to. And
Excellent.
so, that innovation is that's something that I love coming out of Latin America, because I don't see that in too many parts of the world.
Beautiful example. I love it. All right, so let's talk about trends in the region. I know we touched a little bit on that, but let's talk about what trends you see happening in Latin America from the political, social, economic standpoint. What do you see in the news? What do you see happening?
Well, I think in terms of trends, I think because of COVID, the entire world is kind of in a depressed mode, economically speaking. But I think it's coming back up. Like markets like Mexico and Brazil and Colombia and Argentina, they're too big to fail, and they need to grow faster. And I think right now is a good opportunity for all of these countries to really step up their game when it comes to innovation, because you often see that innovation happens right after a big economic dip. New companies take over, and we saw this in 2008 when we had the whole sharing economy. So we had Uber and Airbnb and all these other big companies that came into place. And that all happened because of 2008. And so I think there's another big trend that's going to change, and Latin America can certainly be ahead of that. And I see, some of that coming from the expanses in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and that's certainly taking place in Latin America. There's a lot of companies working around those aspects in terms of diagnosing people faster, diagnosing them in different ways. And then when it comes to I think innovation that's pushed by the government, I think a lot of governments that around the world are pumping money just to keep the economy going. And you see that in the United States, we see that in Latin America, and pretty much every part of the world. So there's money now available for ideas to be created. And so I think there's a lot of push for companies to continue innovating and for entrepreneurs to continue innovating in Latin America, because there's a need for it, and there's a push by all the governments to keep the economy going, get people, anyone who's not working, okay, it's fine, go start something, start an idea and push that forward. So the next 2-3 years, I see a lot of progress that I anticipate in Latin America, just because of where we are economically and where the policies are going moving forward, where higher access to care and easier access and more efficient access to care. All that's important now, because these Latin American countries, they're getting older and older populations, and so you got the younger generation has to now take care of the older generation. So things have to be more efficient than they have been before, and I think that is going to drive. So the social economic drive is really going to push for better healthcare, easier healthcare, and more universal healthcare in general.
Yeah, yeah. I would summarize what's happening now in Latin America with they're desperate for business. I mean, all these countries. I was in a conference today. I was looking. It was the head of the economic department of Citibank out of New York, and he was talking about the trends in Latin America. And the growth that is projected for these countries is not as good as the growth of the United States and China, that have grown higher than before the pandemic. I mean, these countries has rebounded. I mean, they are leading the world now. But Latin America, the growth of Colombia is going to be significantly less than during 2020, or just a little bit above. I mean, in average in Latin America, it's not going to grow that much. That's my point, versus 2020. And so what I see these countries doing is they're trying to diversify their economies. They're trying to attract foreign direct investment.
Absolutely.
And they're doing anything necessary for this to happen. In the case of Colombia specifically, which is my home country and the country that we focus the most with our business, where we bring our trials and we bring companies that are looking to start in Latin America, I see the word reactivation everywhere in the news. Every headline has the word economic reactivation, right? So they are bringing, for example, just last week, I was in a meeting organized by ProColombia, which is the investment promoting agency of the country. And they have offices all over the world. And they're promoting this initiative to bring pharmaceutical and medical device companies to do manufacturing in Colombia. And that will lead to clinical research, and that will lead to local innovation, and et cetera, high-paying jobs. So they are looking for very creative strategies to bring more business. So I think it will be a great time for Latin America to do something different. No.
Absolutely, and the pharmaceutical industry, is a good place to be in right now. It's one of the few industries that actually wasn't affected by the pandemic. It actually went up.
Totally.
Right, and so it actually that medical devices and anything that has to do with healthcare, that industry, I think, can really play an important role in recovery, as well as expansion within Latin America. And I certainly agree. The foreign investment perspective of getting big pharmaceutical companies to come manufacture. I mean, looking at something like mRNA, one of the biggest restraints that we had, and this is in general, and I'm seeing this happening quite actively in Latin America as well, is actually synthetic biology. Being able to produce other molecules, other proteins, using cells and using bacterium and using plants to be able to do it. And we saw this with mRNA. It's hard to make. It's hard to manufacture. And as we're moving towards these type of treatments in the future, we need more and more of these synthetic biology manufacturing facilities. And I certainly hope, and I'm hoping all countries, but especially Latin America, can really lead the way in creating more synthetic biology and synthetic manufacturing facilities to aid other companies in making their particular products easier and faster and distributed. So we don't have to depend on one or two countries around the world to make a vaccine and then distribute it everywhere. Latin America could be that center where everyone goes to manufacture vaccines, where everyone goes to manufacture proteins. And I think that is a great opportunity that I'm hoping that countries in Latin America don't miss out, because I think synthetic biology is the future, and manufacturing and putting money there is going to be very key.
Yeah, they call it a nearshoring strategy. They're attracting nearshoring. That's really the name of the game now, since the relationship with China and the United States is now seeing China as a real competitor. I mean, they are getting aggressively into Latin America. The United States has said, we need friendly countries to work with us, so that we don't have to depend on potential enemies, right? So we want companies to manufacture their products closer to us, here in our backyard, because we have ignored Latin America. It's right here. Mexico, Costa Rica is a great example of a country that attracted all these Medtronics of the world, Boston Scientific of the world to do manufacturing in their free zones and everything. It's just amazing. So Colombia can easily be or get inspired with what Costa Rica is doing. Actually, that is what that was a topic of conversation during the event that I just mentioned. They talk about Costa Rica. They talk about India, how India was able to come out of nowhere and become the pharmacy of the world. So
Right.
the Colombian government, the Colombian ambassador in India was at the event, and she is doing her work to collaborate with the Indian government to learn best practices from India to adapt to Colombia to attract pharmaceuticals or medical devices to Colombia for
Right,
manufacturing.
and I think that's one of the things that India did really well is that they
Yeah.
became the leader in manufacturing generics and
Yes.
manufacturing,
Exactly.
proteins, and so and I think that's where countries like Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Ecuador, they have so much land and they have so much capability to be able to use that land in a way that's not just beneficial to them, but benefiting the whole world. Because the
Yeah.
next time, God forbid, another pandemic happens,
Yeah.
we don't have to rely everything around Asia to manufacture all the drugs that we need in the East, in the Western Hemisphere. We can go to
Totally.
Mexico, we can go to Ecuador, we can go
Exactly.
to Brazil and say, hey, we need more mRNA vaccines. Let's do
Yes.
this here,
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than having to do it in India. So no, it's I think it's an opportunity that a lot of countries are looking at, but I think Latin American countries really take a deep look at it and say, how can we take advantage of this, and how can we
Yeah.
be
It's an
there
opportunity.
the next time there's any major worldwide disaster, how we can lead the world rather than having to follow some other country and then
Yeah.
depending on others that we don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're close to the end of the show, Mahesh, but I like to ask you about more examples that you may have. If you have any more in Latin America of companies that you have funded or you have accelerated or you have worked with. So anything going on in Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, besides the examples that you gave us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, apart from just drug development, I mean, I personally look at any type of life science and healthcare type companies, and one of the other companies that we recently ended up funding in Argentina is actually a company that was doing last mile delivery of drugs from the from the pharmacy to the patients. One of the things that they realized was that uh, people aren't taking their medications because they can't, or they don't end up going to the pharmacy, and so the compliance, is so low.
Yes. Mhm.
And they realize that all they have to do is just get the drug to the patient at their home, and
Yeah.
compliance goes up 40, 50, 60%, depending on the country. And so this company, had an amazing case study of what they were able to do in Argentina. And so we ended up funding them, so now they can actually expand to Central America and Mexico as well.
Nice.
And see how far we can actually push this, because compliance is a problem anywhere in the world. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but Latin America and South America especially, compliance is so low. So when the doctor says take this tablet twice a day, they do it once a week. And that's not going to treat them. That's going to
they cut it in
the-
half so that they can take the tablet next day.
Exactly. So you've seen it. You've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So it's like they're doing the things that they shouldn't be doing, and obviously what that means is that they're getting sicker. They have to end up going to the hospital more, and that increases the cost overall for everyone. And so for the family, they have to take care of them longer, and there's more problems. Have to be in the hospital longer. So they showed a really nice case study saying we did this for 1 year, and we increased compliance to these families here over 60%, and we saw a drop on their healthcare costs over 80%. 80% drop in healthcare costs of those families that they were able to serve.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And exactly. If we can translate that, America itself, don't get me started with our healthcare system here.
Yeah.
But if we can reduce 80% of healthcare costs across any country, right? Like that's just such an amazing, because I would say any country you pick in Latin America, healthcare costs is at least 30% of GDP.
Yes.
Imagine bringing that down lower than what you're spending on infrastructure, right? Like how much cash a country can save by not taking care of their patients because they keep getting sick.
Exactly, and you improve the patients' lives, of course.
Exactly, and so that is a great example of not just life sciences specifically, but healthcare in general. How we can affect all patients' lives.
Beautiful, Mahesh. All right, we're close to the end of the show, and what will be your final words of wisdom to the CEO of any medical technology or healthcare company that is just looking at Latin America as a land of opportunity, was a place to do business in general? What would you say to him or her if you had him in front of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, first, find a partner, right? I think that there are so many great companies in Latin America that we aren't either looking at or are not aware of because we're not, we aren't searching for them. It's always like you're searching for investors, you're searching for hospitals here in the United States or in Europe or Australia, wherever it might be. But the best way to get into Latin America is through a partner. And there's so many great companies. Find a great partner, and then using the partner, you're able to do so much more. In terms of taking advantage of the local regulations, taking advantage of the local grants, taking advantage of the local market in general, and some of these markets are way bigger than what we anticipate. Like markets like Mexico are growing like 15-20% a year in some cases. So there's definitely a market there. Companies should not ignore this market, because they think it's not a big size. It's more than enough for most startups to take a look at, to do what they need to do. And then if they want to look at Europe, if they want to look at the United States later for regulatory application and so forth, they can still do that. I think that's what a lot of countries or companies are afraid of. They think if they go outside to Latin America, that not everything, all the work that they do there doesn't count, and that's absolutely not true. So by finding a good partner, either manufacturing, clinical trial partner, or even a good collaborator, to say you have something, I have something, let's put this together and see what happens. I think those are the opportunities that companies should be looking out for in Latin America. And once you find that, it's so easy to tap into that market, grow as well. You can go from one country in Latin America to another one very, very quickly because regulations aren't that hindering as it might be from the United States. And so I think that'll be the big advice for me is find a good partner and then grow out into Latin America because there's a lot of opportunity, but you can't do it on your own. You can't do it on your own. I think that's the big takeaway for me.
Excellent, Mahesh. And I will say before we end here that you are fishing in a blue ocean because you are in a position where you are part of an accelerator. You're looking for companies to apply to your program. You're looking for companies to fund. Those are your metrics. And you are swimming in an ocean where nobody else is looking for opportunities.
Absolutely. And they're coming to us as well.
They're coming to you. Fantastic.
They're coming to us. So we're looking, but they're coming to us even faster. So,
beautiful.
Absolutely. We love to fund companies there. We love to, continue working in Latin American countries and, making sure that whatever we can provide to help them do, what they have to do better, we are happy to help as well. So,
excellent.
That's really the where I see the future really taking shape is in Latin America.
I'm so happy to see you guys and other accelerators doing work in Latin America because it's something that is badly needed. There's no ecosystem yet. I mean, just starting to be, but specifically for medical technologies, medical, biotech, medtech, healthcare, the ecosystem is not as strong as it is in the United States, and it is not as strong as it is with apps and technology in general.
Absolutely. So we're actually hoping to start a office in Latin America, a specific Newchip office that's dedicated to just Latin America. That's in the future. But it's definitely part of our plans because obviously it's the closest neighbors, right? Going to Latin America from here is the closest neighbors. So we're certainly looking to expand there because we see a lot of opportunity that we would like. To be
Bogota is certainly a great place for that. I mean, it's becoming the startup capital of Latin America. Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, you know that. So Mexico City.
Absolutely. There's a lot of them coming up. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome, Mahesh. So how can people get in contact with you?
Sure. You can reach out to me through my email. It is my first name, Mahesh, and then my first initial of my last name is N, as in Nancy, at newchip.com.
Okay.
So that's newchip.com. That'll be the best way to reach out to me. And any information you might need about our accelerator, any information you want to just apply to be part of our accelerator, or for investment. We're also looking for companies for investment. But that's probably the best way to reach out to me. And you can certainly reach out to me through LinkedIn. I'm quite active in LinkedIn as well as Twitter. So
Yes.
these are all the 3 easy ways to get to me.
Beautiful. We're gonna include a link to your LinkedIn profile in our website. So, Mahesh, thank you so much. You're being a great guest. I loved our conversation. I'm sure listeners got a lot out of it, and I look forward to being in touch. Bye.